Hey guys, it's me, X here, so welcome back to Vindictus, and welcome to the Fiona guide. Okay, so I'm gonna go over, I guess, just in the same usual format. It'll be, use this table of contents guide around me, or around here anyways, wherever it is, and it'll be obviously, like, the AP skills, equipment, and then some demonstration, and of course the end slate, of course, where you get to see all of it put together kind of thing. God, it's so much work. Alright, so my Fiona is level 80 here. Right now, one thing I just want to let you guys know, whoever's coming into Fiona, just know that she's a very well-rounded character. Obviously her top stat is defense. You should be able to easily break 10k by level 80 if you have some enchants and whatever. Right now my gear has no enchantments and I'm just using level 80 armor, and well, I have a level 70 weapon here. I have 80 armor, and none of my stuff is enchanted except for maybe this belt, and that's it. Yeah, it's just the belt. So my stats are pretty horrible here. It's like 15k. Well, it's not that horrible. You can do very well with 15k. And just have a look over there on the left, and these stats are like the reason why she has such a high defense is literally because of the shield. The shield itself gives like 2,000 defense. Just look at that. That's ridiculous. That's pretty much like 2 pieces of armor extra. And if you plus 10 that and you put enchant scrolls on it, it'll be even better. No, and then there's also an enchant scroll section that I'll be going over, since you guys seem to ask about a lot of enchant scrolls all the time. They're not absolute. I mean, if you have different ideas that you want to build your character, you should go for it. These are just guidelines. Don't ever take my guides as absolute or anything. They're just it's just to point you in a direction that I feel is comfortable with particular weapon sets and character playstyles. So moving on. So the first thing you guys want to know is, in terms of common skills, you do want guard and heavy standard maxed as soon as possible. This helps reduce the stamina consumption of a block, and heavy standard, the damage you take from blows that you can't actually withstand. So if you're using a small shield, you can... So one thing to get straight before we go anything is that the things that both hammer and sword can use is focal point and shield dash. So you do want shield dash. Shield dash is a very good mobility skill, and it'll help you with a lot of mob clearing early on in the early levels, and focal point can be used with both weapons, even with a hammer. I know that sounds ridiculous because it's supposed to be only working with swords, but I use it with the hammer as well. So you can do this, and then just like spam the shield dash everywhere you go, and just keep using that just to clear mobs. It hits really hard, and you can literally one-shot creatures with this. But with the sword, you can repeat it, and then you do like spin to win kind of thing. So with a sword, it's you can just keep going. But it also costs 100 stamina to keep going. So a good stamina maximum to reach is actually 200 stamina. I'm at 190. If I had some enchantments, I'd put Endearing Enchant Scroll on just so I'd reach 205. So I can spin twice. Unless either that, you would have to turn on slashing high, and then you can do it forever. Like this. Spin to win for a long while your stamina and SP last. Costs about 50 for every 3 slashes. Yeah, so and that's how you can do a lot of damage like that. So that's another thing to consider if you're gonna go with swords. But both classes do need focal point and shield dash. Shield dash, you want it at least at rank 9, so you can use it twice really quick. Rank 9, you can use it by holding your kick button down, and it only costs 25 SP. 25 SP is like nothing, literally, because counterattack, if you're using small shields, grants you like 50 SP or 40 SP per hit. So you basically get 80 SP, and you make it back in no time. So you can pretty much spam this all the time in a boss battle if you block attacks. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, you can just dash around all over the place. And then the other skill that you want is shield bash. If you're gonna go with a small shield. So one thing to keep in mind is, if you're going with swords, I highly suggest you learn counterattack and heavy standard counter and downward counter. If you're gonna go with hammer, save all that AP and go with iron defense instead, and taunt and slashing high and iron and shield charge. Both weapons do need shield charge, but then you don't. If you're going with a large shield, you don't need any of the counter attacks because large shields can't counter. So you'll save a lot of SP in that sense. And then of course critical hit and smash, just level those whenever. All the classes need it, every character needs it, and it just overall improves your overall DPS. And then also in terms of training, willpower helps a lot, because willpower helps activate your standing endurances more, your life flares more, which if you're using a small shield you can use more downward counters or heavy standard counters. Your downward counters is basically activates when you have a standing endurance that occurs, and standing endurance, you also want to max this as soon as possible. Stamina mastery is very, very useful. It helps you, you get to do more spin to win attacks and keep going like this forever. And then when you fit deflections in between, deflection, a successful one, restores some stamina, and it also empowers your next hit. So whenever you can unlock shield deflection, unlock it as soon as possible and start using it. This actually makes Fiona's gameplay a lot harder than what it used to be. There's one little feature, so that's why her revamp didn't have much change. So because this one deflection thing here kind of makes everything go nuts. And it's pretty amazing how one feature changed their entire gameplay up. And of course, equipment, I just went with plate and heavy because that's all she is. She's just pure defense. You don't really need to consider other armors unless you're attempting to turn yourself into an attack cannon, which I don't think is necessary. And so that's it for the general skills. In terms of the particular weapon skills, another thing is, before I go into the weapons, slashing high, you want to max this as soon as possible. Both classes need it. And then once you max it, when you use this, don't use slashing high first, use shield charge first. Shield charge costs the exact same amount of SP, except it also causes a boss flinch. And so basically it can cancel like a boss's like mega attacks or whatever you want. You can stop Bark from moving, for instance, just bash into like the front bumper with shield charge, but it also applies slashing high of whatever level you have it trained to, which is ridiculous. I was like, so this is like a 2-in-1 skill, and then you have slashing high on, and then you've got your bonus attack speed or whatever. So it's like, what the? I'm like, that's all bullshit, and it's on a separate cooldown too, right? So if you have full SP, if you build it all the way back up, you can probably get your slashing high on right after too, and then you can keep it on for a good like half a minute almost. That's pretty retarded. Especially if you're with a small shield, counter attack and the other things will bring it up really quick. So I'm gonna go into the weapons now. So in terms of the longsword, if you're going with a longsword, I highly suggest you learn Ivy Sweep to rank 9. So because at rank 9 you'll get an extra kick at the end of the attack. So rather than doing this, you'll get a kick at rank 9, which is a spin kick, and it's fairly quick compared to all the other attacks. This is the earliest skill you can rank 9 at a low level, but as you get higher, Blossom Blow and Amaranth Kick is what you want to use. So Blossom Blow, you can actually at rank 9 make it go forever, like this. So you can just like, smash and then keep going and just keep bashing things. Yeah, so you can also kind of position yourself and just keep going and going until you're out of stamina. So yeah, that happens at rank 9 and beyond for Blossom Blow. Once you have that, Amaranth Kick, you'll be using this a lot and actually causes a high chance of knockdown. I think it was like insane, 39%. What the okay, anyways, yeah, so this is like the ultimate shit kick. And if you one of the things I'm gonna go over later in the guide is how to deflect and do 2 of them at the same time. Well, not at the same time, but like one after another. You'll see it at the end anyway. So like you can actually do 2 Amaranth Kicks, and that's ridiculous basically with the deflection. So how deflection works is, I'll go over that later. So those are the skills you want. Pedal Toss, You can bring this to rank 9 if you want. I don't really use it that much anymore after the revamp. I rarely ever use this. And it also says that you can use this to combo into the focal point, but I really don't know how to do it. I've tried it and it doesn't seem to work. It says right click after the additional slash and it just doesn't go. So I don't know what they were doing there. And then the ultimate crushing assault to lock down bosses. You don't really have to rank that until way later. Shield enhancement, you want this ranked as soon as possible, considering it helps with the counterattack. It makes your second hit of the counterattack hit super hard. So that's one of the things about sword feel. This is why you don't need a large shield if you're gonna go with sword, because you'll be eliminating a particular longsword skill. So you would never want to use a large shield with sword. And there's also a reason with that too. You may get less defense, but then the counterattack is very, very beneficial. And if you're going to counterattack, when you counterattack foes, you do it twice, and then you can follow through with a shield bash. And that'll help with knocking down a boss to their knees extremely fast, especially if you're soloing stuff. When you're soloing stuff, a boss's knockdown threshold is a lot lower than when you're with multiple people in a party. So you can probably have a boss sit on his knees almost like permanently throughout a fight, or almost very, very frequently, not really permanently, but yeah. So every counterattack, God, I want to sneeze so bad. But anyways, a counterattack has as much knockdown points as a shield bash. So when you have both of those hand in hand, you go counterattack into a shield bash, and then you can add these two little kicks in if you want, but I don't recommend it unless there's an opening, and then they'll most likely go down after the second or third time you do it. And it only costs 250 SP for the shield bash, but shield bash is both hammer and sword can use it, but I highly recommend you skill it only if you're going long swords. And that's pretty much it for long swords. So long swords, you just get attack speed and crit. You don't really need balance, as balance is already pretty high for swords compared to hammers. It's about like 10 or 20 points higher. So make sure you get like minimal balance and try to reach that 80 plus to 90 val if you want, and then just stack attack speed and crit. You also need it because a lot of the attacks they're already somewhat quick compared to the hammer, but they need to be quicker, and then also the speed helps with counterattacks going faster, and then also just linking your attacks through a deflection. So with the long hammers, you want to learn the butterfly swing maxed as soon as you can, because you'll be using this a lot against bosses. Beetle crusher as well, because it's also a really quick technique to pull off. And that's actually kind of about it. Honeybee sting, you don't really need it. It's just like an easy smash charge like this. That's just a simple one. And then also the which one is it? Crushing swing. Crushing swing is the uplift uppercut shot into the smash, exactly like the pedal toss in the longsword. You don't really need that either. You really only need the butterfly swing and the stigma hammer at most, and then beetle crusher for quick strikes. But later on, when I show you how to do perfect guard skips, you'll be using almost always the butterfly swing and the stigma hammer. The other ones don't really matter too much. And also with the shield dash and focal point, you'll be using that a lot to clear a lot of mobs really quickly. But one thing that why I suggest you go large shield with the hammer is because of iron defense. Iron defense is a skill that's only usable by large shields. So this buff is actually really, really ridiculous. It just basically makes Fio practically almost invincible. It lowers damage, all incoming damage, by up to 75% at max rank, which you can get by level 40. And by that time you can actually just tank anything. You won't get knocked down, and you'll probably like lose so little health it should be almost negligible to just like don't even block, just attack right through it. So the effects of iron defense, even though it says it's a buff, and it actually works like slashing high, which is really weird. It works like slashing high without the infinite stamina, And the butterfly swing, if you notice here, it says when slashing high is in effect, hammer combo attack, you can do these two other inputs to do a quick stigma, well, a butterfly swing into a quick stigma. So, but with iron defense on, so let me show you what I mean first. So with slashing high, you can do this combo, and then you do this swing into a double swing, and then into a quick stigma. So that's a quick stigma hammer basically. It doesn't cause a flinch. It's just a really quick combo that does a lot of damage. You generally want to try to do that either within the last second of slashing high if you want. You don't have to. It's just that generally you want to get as many hits in as possible. It also has a lot of mobility too when you do that. But with iron defense, you can actually do that as well. So when you have this buff on, you can do the same thing. Except there's stamina cost, of course, but you can just absorb hits when you have it on. It doesn't even matter. So there's that. And then the other thing with Stigma Hammer that's really great is that if you get it to the maximum charge, a full charge Stigma will cancel an attack, or it'll make a boss flinch basically. It's very useful. You can, if timed right, you can cancel like healing effects from Ulcus, for instance. Like Ulcus drops his sword and has that white aura, and then he's healing. If you have a Theo charging up her Stigma to charge 3, you can easily cancel that without having to use any SP skills. So it has a great amount of utility. It also has a lot of knockdown potential. It's also great for stopping Bark from moving, the giant train boss. And that's some of the benefits of Hammer, is that you and with Hammer, since attacks are slower too, you want a larger shield anyways because it grants more defense. The differences between large shield and small shield is that small shields, they can't block unblockables, whereas a large shield can. You just have to do a perfect heavy stander. For small shields, you can block heavy strikes if you perfect guard them with just regular. But then you can't block unblockables with small shield, which is, well, that's kind of how it is. So basically, like, you know, large shield can block an extra type of attack, and they're not like true unblockables. True unblockables are those red auras in the Season 3 monsters, but there are things like Siglin's Lightning, for instance, that's supposedly unblockable. Don't quite remember. Some things have changed. It's all blurry. You just have to play and learn experience. So that's the other thing with Theo. If you're going to play her to a maximum potential, you have to know how the bosses are attacking and how to time your attacks in between to fit like double smashes in there with deflection. Otherwise, you'll just be playing her like, you know, regularly, like block and counter attack, or block and skip into a combo. And then in terms of stats with Hammer, I actually don't really care about attack speed with Hammer. I find that if you actually raise balance and critical, it's a lot more important, because the balance on hammers is already really low, and you should try and raise that stat really high. On top of on top of criticals, because the hit numbers are so large that if you grant a multiplier on them, it just goes even bigger than pretty much most characters in the game. Like, she makes not that many hits, so the less hits with huge multipliers is how I'm going about it. Of course, speed can be good, because I mean this is a repeated swing. It costs about 26 stamina every shot, so after the first one costs only 9, but then after that it just 26 every extra hit. So like this is very good for like just smashing bosses that don't move very much, and it doesn't cost anything and generates a lot of SP, and you don't need that counter attack to continuously build it. Another thing to do with Taunt is good to keep bosses on you. When you're in a party and bosses are on you, the fight is actually a lot easier for you. It may be harder for your party members because the boss's weapons aren't swinging around wildly at someone else. So with Taunt on, the boss is more likely to attack you, and then you can actually see the attacks coming at you, which is why generally soloing is also a lot easier than running in a party of 8. Because in a party of 8, if they're doing like a turnaround swing and you're not aware that they're swinging to like their side while you're behind the boss, then you're going to obviously suffer a hit. more often than the person in the front who knows that it's gonna happen. Alright guys, so that's the long hammer stuff. Alright dudes, so welcome to the enchant scroll section of the part. In terms of armors, I don't really have anything to recommend to you apart from plate armor sets for Theo. And I mean, just, you know, pick and choose from what you want, just at least wear something at your level. I didn't really care too much about what armors I'm going to use anyways. Use whatever you think you're going to need for your build. For me, I just like to smash in on the defense because that means I can make more mistakes, take more hits, and land more attacks while I'm like just not even bothered to defending because she has so much defense to begin with. It doesn't, like, damage is so negligible, it's like whatever. The enchant scrolls that like I would actually put, since I don't have any of my gear enchanted, here's the ones that I would put on shields, which is like diamond enchant scroll. It gives critical resistance, which is like huge for season 3. Fresh enchant scroll if you want, which gives a bit of defense and attack speed. But for the weapons, definitely you want to go with ornate scroll for the hammers. If you're just going to look for a prefix, which is ornate, it's specifically for long hammers. For swords, enhanced works really well too. And then since swords, I suggested you go speed on, you just go bloodlust valor, which is really easy to get. But for the hammer, you probably want like something like spirited or judgment or even chance if you can get your balance up high enough for the crit. So spirited is really good. It gives a huge amount of attack and a pretty good critical rate boost with very little loss. Tunics, obviously, it's almost every character just goes Temporal Master, or you can go Enduring Master. Enduring gives you that 15 stamina, which you can try and boost to break that 200 stamina limit. And then there's armors. Armors, you can go with Armadillo if you're using heavy armor, because Armadillo gives +5 stamina per enchant on each heavy piece, which could easily bring you to like 200. If you have everything enchanted with like Passions, and Armadillos and Enduring Master with full stamina rank Master, you might be able to reach about 230 stamina capacity, 250. It's kind of ridiculous. And then if you power infuse all your armor pieces plus your shield and plus 10 all your armor, you probably have around maybe 13-14k defense. So it's easily doable. It's not very hard. It's not even like hard to conceive it. And then you should have high amount of critical resistance too, so then when you take crits, it also does like nothing. And then you pack that on with Iron Defense of your large shield, and you can just tank any kind of monster. Even with the Season 3 debuffs, you're still going to receive 75% less damage after reductions. So that's retarded. You don't even have to worry about damage at that point. And if you have a staff Eevee with you, she can just keep you alive like forever while she does damage, and you can just taunt the boss and whatever and just return strikes, knock down and whatever. In terms of awakenings, skill awakenings, I would also put what was it, knockdown rate on most of these skills, especially shield bash. You can increase knockdown rate. That's ridiculous. Shield bash is the highest knockdown rate attack in the entire game. I think I found that in like some kind of data mine chart or whatever. The knockdown points that are given from shield bash are like supremely high compared to anything else. I thought it was retarded that you can increase it even more. So that's the same thing with like all of these. I would actually put knockdown rate, except for maybe Stigma Hammer. Stigma Hammer I would do increased damage. You don't really need to lower stamina consumption because of how, you know, the shield charge and the slashing high, you should be able to keep those on fairly a lot. In terms of an artifact, if you're going with swords, a werewolf paw would do you very well for that massive speed increase. And if you're going hammer, I would suggest you get a cat statue so you can keep the iron defense and the slashing high and the shield charge refreshing and going repeatedly. Iron defense also lowers cooldown on perfect blocks. Perfect blocks occur when you block and then you see green sparks fly out of Theo's shield. Alright guys, so we'll head into some demonstration here. Alright guys, so I'm going to be using Shakar as an example because he's fairly easy to demonstrate most of the things I want to go over. So I'm using a large shield and a hammer right now, and what you want to learn with the shield and blocking is making perfect blocks. So perfect block is basically just guarding before an attack hits you. If you hold it like this and just sit here, your blocks will be golden instead, which just means it wasn't a perfect block. Like, of course I can just sit here and tank all day if I want, but it doesn't really do anything. Oh, that actually does damage to him, that's weird. But with perfect blocking, you can get into a butterfly swing really easy without having to winding up, because winding up you have to do this. But when you perfect block, you skip the first 2 steps. So like that, straight into a stigma, really quick. Or right into a butterfly like that. Just keep going. And then if you need to block an attack, just use deflection. Oh wow, that hit 12k. And I'm taking very little damage because I have 10,000 defense and this guy only has like maybe, I think 12k attack or something. It's not very much. So generally in the middle of swings you can just deflect. It's really hard to do while I'm talking, but... Bam! So you just keep swinging for days on end if you want, if you just... And then just keep going. Oh! I ran out of stamina. You need at least 10 stamina to perform a deflection. If you don't have that, then you're just gonna suffer a hit. Oh. And if you also miss your deflection, it also stops your combo, which makes Fiona pretty hard to play in that sense. Because you really want to deflect stuff. It also boosts your damage by I think 30 or 50%. It's a huge boost. This is why you don't really need attack speed, because if you have too much attack speed, you're going to deplete your stamina before you're able to continue your combos for long periods of time. For bosses that do multiple strikes, you want to actually deflection right into a guard instead. There's almost no delay from a deflection to a guard. So you get the buff instead, and then you go into a perfect guard, and then you resume your combo with the perfect block skip of your attack. So then you have to switch in between when to decide if you know a boss is doing a 1 strike or a multiple strike. A lot of the season 3 bosses, they do multiple strikes, so then deflection is only there to get a buff for yourself, and then you have to build your combo up again. And then with the Beetle Crusher, you can do it twice if you have a deflection in between. So I don't know if I can... Oh god, this guy. Just turn on some iron defense, take like nothing, and then you can't get flinched anymore. It's like having super armor too, with iron defense on, which is kind of ridiculous. Just break off point somehow. You can use deflection whenever you want, but if you use deflection in the middle of an attack, it generally takes you 1 step backwards. So if you're in the middle of your normal attacks, like this, you'll go back 1 step, and then you can't like go backwards into doing a smash that you wanted previously. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's really hard to describe. Here, I'll draw like some numbers down there. And then after a Stigma Hammer, after throwing the Stigma Hammer down, you can't deflect either. So that's the end of a combo with a Stigma Hammer. You can deflect in between, but you can't during a charge, but you can't deflect after hitting it, which kind of sucks because I would love to do a double Stigma, but it's not possible. 27k. Yeah, so you can do a Stigma really quick, and then go straight into it. Like sometimes don't even bother charging it. Charge it only when you have an opportunity. Don't get greedy. You'll die more often if you get greedy. And then of course use your Blooming Violet when you need to stun a boss. I think Blooming Violet is probably one of the longest stuns in the game. That's basically the Theo Hammer ult. It lasts for like a good 20 seconds, I think, almost. Just for the whole animation to play out. And I was like, damn, like, this is such a long lockdown. And of course the funny thing with Theo is that when you beat around, you can launch things around. And just bash their bodies around, of course. You know, off they go. Guys, so this is the longsword part of demonstration, and with a small shield, and the reasons why. So this is basically, I'm gonna try and show you how to, like, with double amaranth kicks, you just have to make deflections after an amaranth kick, and generally it's pretty easy to do with slow attack speed. I assume this is gonna get harder if you have high attack speed. So I generally try to land the kick right before he's about to attack. There's also this massive delay after a kick that you can wait because she does some kind of weird karate stance, and you go right into another kick. Bam. Oh, that thing swung over my head. I'm too short. Boom, double kick. So that's, I guess that's how you do it. Oh, double kick right there too. And another kick. So in higher levels, Amaranth Kick will outdo counterattack, but counterattack's also great for generating SP. And if you have the shield enhancement on, if you have a high critical as well with Longsword, the counterattacks will actually outdo an Amaranth Kick if they both crit. But if you get an Amaranth Kick crit, that's also pretty crazy. Because with the shield enhancement, it's like 8,000 damage there, and a kick itself is only 10k, but that's a crit though, so it's actually very, very comparable. Whichever one you take though, you should be wary, because sometimes if they're doing multiple strikes, you don't want to do a counterattack. Counterattack doesn't make you invincible. You're actually wide open during a counterattack. You can take hits and damage during a counterattack, which you don't want. You want to minimize as much damage as possible. Oh, I knocked him down again. That's the other thing. Counterattack has super high knockdown potential along with shield bash. So let's try and knock him down again. Oh, I don't think it's gonna take very much. I really don't. That's 4 counterattacks. That's 8. With a shield bash in there. Oh. And he's down again on his knees. And it's so easy to perform, it's kind of retarded. Okay. And that's why after a counterattack you can always use a shield bash. During shield bash you're actually invincible. The short little dash before the hit. That little minor dash can actually save your life. I've seen some godlike Theos dodge Keegan's instant kill stab with it right next to him, because Theo doesn't have any other invuln frame techniques that don't cost SP, but shield bash is one of them. And you just have to learn the timing. It's very short, it's like 0.2 seconds or something, so as much as like a spear land dodge before the revamp. And then of course there's the spin to win technique. Never ever activate focal point from your skill point bar, always activate it through a shield dash. This is why you want shield dash past rank 9, because it costs about 100 to 150 SP less than usual. Because if you activate it from the bar here, it costs 250 SP, whereas if you activate it through shield dash is 25 if you use it from the whole kick button down, for the shield dash hotkey from the skill bar, it'll be 50 SP. And then it'll cost another 50 SP to cast the focal point instead of 250. So the total is only like 100 cost at most through shield dash, if not 75, which is a lot cheaper than 250. And it also gives a lot of mobility too. So with that you can actually dance around a foe pretty well with focal point and go around in circles. Very useful. Don't deny it. Alright, and that's the longsword demonstration, guys. I don't really have very many other tips for you. So small shield, you know, lots of encounters. If you... Another thing with heavy standard, if you block a heavy standard with a small shield, you'll actually be invincible for the frames that you're knocked back to. So until you either recover from your overwhelming blow that you blocked, or you perform a heavy standard counter, then you'll be vulnerable again. But the knockback time is actually quite a long distance and time frame for invuln frames. So there's like a it's pretty strong. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching this guide. I hope this helped you out with your Fionas. And, you know, I will bow down to you. Because there used to be a memory back when this character was made. There was such a thing as tokens in this game. Alright guys, thanks so much. Enjoy this ending. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.
Monster kill!